Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2. I am Brandon C. McClure. With me tonight is Ryan Eliopoulos.
What's up, y'all? Y'all heard of the Spocker. Get ready for the shocker.
All right. And Sparkz Witty.
I don't even know how to follow that.
Yeah, neither do I. We are here to talk about, how are you guys? Good.
Good.
Fine. I'm sleepy. I'm happy to talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra Per Aspera, which is directed by Valerie Weiss, written by Dana Hargan. So let's get right into it. This is a pretty meaty episode, so let's do it. What did you guys think of this one?
I think it's a pretty damn good Star Trek episode, if you ask me.
Yeah. No, I know they made it like a long time ago, but it feels like they listened to us and addressed everything we said last week immediately.
That is funny.
I was watching this and I was like, oh, damn. Sparkz nailed it.
Yeah, pretty happy about that. That was cool.
Yeah. I really like this episode. This is, people have been saying it online, so I'll reiterate that Star Trek is no stranger to courtroom drama. There have been incredible courtroom episodes throughout Star Trek's long history. And to kind of revisit that genre with Strange New Worlds is really exciting. And I'm happy to say that I believe they nailed it. I think this is one of the best episodes of the series so far, if not one of the best episodes of Star Trek altogether.
It is a pretty good. It is a really, really excellent episode of Strange New Worlds. I'll definitely say that part. I'm not a Star Trek expert enough to say that, at least.
Yeah, I think this one is. Look, I think this is going to go right over Sparks' head, probably not Ryan's, but I think the best courtroom episode of Star Trek is Measure of a Man, which is the episode where Picard has to defend Data's humanity and I think that's the best courtroom, and it would be difficult to surpass that, but I think this is up there. This is a really good episode.
This one really works because it's well written, it's well acted. For being a courtroom episode, it's well shot. But the wonderful thing about Star Trek and what Star Trek has been from the beginning, it's about combating bigotry and hatred and about a one world, and it is really interesting, and it was in the back of my mind, but I didn't really think too much of it. And this episode made such a grand thing of it, of why are they racist against the Illyrians? Why? That is stupid in a world where Star Trek is what it is, that this happens. But it's if we are combating a real world thing, there is still some prejudices from fear and war. It is an understandable thing, but again, it is out of fear and the unknown more than an understanding of anything.
Right, and you bring up a very good point. It's not that Starfleet was intentionally targeting Illyrians. They were, and the Nira says that, right? Starfleet didn't mean to do this, but they did, because they have a long history with augmentation, and Illyrians, it's part of their culture, as Sparkz said last week, very much like the Mandalorians. It's very much part of their culture, and it's not. It was an unintentional. They unintentionally created a law that gave people the ability to be bigots towards augmented people, and April says it outright. It's that law is there to save lives. That law is targeting people, and Starfleet is so. With a lot of modern Trek has been targeting Starfleet's inability to kind of look within itself, and Starfleet has been blind to the fact that that's what this law is doing to other people not outside of Federation space,
And there are, sorry, real quick. I don't think there are enough. Illyrians. Illyrian. I keep saying, I'm sorry. I don't think there are enough Illyrians for it to be a bigger problem. Which is, in the case of a minority, this is something that happens. When there aren't enough of you, you get overlooked, and it's not. It's it doesn't seem like a quote unquote a big deal, but you're still a person. You're still a people. You're just not as big as another group.
Right.
Well, there's a planet of them, but there's there's a refusal to take them at the beginning. So like not enough people are going into Starfleet. So this isn't coming directly to Starfleet's attention. As much. I did have kind of a question because I don't know anything about Star Trek. Is like Starfleet and the Federation as a whole, they are the deciding governing body for everyone? Or
so that's
are these laws made outside of them?
So
not necessarily like, sorry, I just want to be specific. Not necessarily Starfleet regulation laws, but like conventional space law, or just like the laws of how they monitor their societies. Those fall under whatever Starfleet decides.
Well, so think of the Federation like the United States. Think of every planet and species within the Federation as they are their own separate states and nations within this kind of conglomerate space organization. They set all the rules. As far as Starfleet is concerned, this is something that's not clear within all of Star Trek. Starfleet is just Earth's military force. It is not the military force of it is the primary military force of exploratory force. I can't say military. It's not technically a military. It is the
depends on what time period it is, right?
Right. It is the primary force of the Federation, but Vulcans and Andorians still have their own space fleet, for example. But Starfleet is not a governing body. It is just a military, technically.
So I guess like hypothetically, the regulations obviously about an Illyrian joining Starfleet, that's Starfleet law. But the laws against augmentation within the Federation means that that's true on planet Vulcan.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted clarification on that.
That's why I've always been kind of baffled that law still exists, because it's an Earth law that predates the Federation, that was put into the Federation Charter when it was when they all came together.
This is like laws that were made in the 1700s that shouldn't exist now.
Well, this is why I brought it up, is because it seems like so much of it at its core, at least as it's discussed in terms of this episode, is based around Earth's specific fear due to the eugenics war. And I'm puzzled by the wider Federation not being more open-minded about it, and only specifically like Earth seems to be the driven like factor of deciding that law in a Federation way.
The Earth eugenics war basically put a cap for Illyrians throughout the entire universe, for which happened just on Earth. And that is extremely messed up.
Right.
It is. And it's something that I'm glad that modern Trek, specifically Strange New Worlds, has been dealing with, because that's not something. The problem with Star Trek, then there's a few kind of textual problems that Star Trek has had over the years, but it's very centralized. It's very much like Earth is the Federation, but that was never meant to be the case. It just kind of became the de facto case. So if it was like a rule on Earth, it would be a rule on the Federation. So what a lot of modern shows are trying to do is really like expand the idea that the Federation isn't Earth, it's space. There's all these sorts of cultures within space, which is why they talk a lot about in this episode that like, it sucked. The eugenics war sucked for Earth. And it really sucks that they have that traumatic scar on their planet. But it shouldn't be the dictating factor for the entire galaxy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the episode did a great job. They did not need to tackle all what I'm bringing up in this episode. That's too much for a single episode to do. But it does make me like, Federation law still being that way about augmentation is a little peculiar, when like Starfleet makes sense, because Starfleet's about Earth and like Earth's forces and their fears.
You got a Vulcan who's persecuting this person.
But the Federation as a whole, it's pretty much reaches a point where like once you approach the Illyrians as a planet and they are becoming part of the Federation, it feels like at that point, even logically, by Vulcans, you would be reassessing the law.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what they talk about when the planet specifically that Una grew up on was admitted membership into the Federation. It was provisional membership on the basis that they stopped all augmentation, which is kind of messed up, because you're telling a species, stop being who you are and we'll let you in.
And again, like, it's not just for like, oh, we're doing it just to do it. It's like, because they live in a harsh environment, and like, it's like, again, like, it is part of their culture, and it's like, it's what we do to survive. Like, it's part of who we are. Like,
Yeah.
So the other part about that, like this specifically tying into the episode, is that it seems like maybe at least in a wider scale, Illyrians only recently became part of the Federation. In the like larger scheme of things, right? Because it would have been in Una's lifetime that this happened.
So it's not Illyrians. It's this planet.
Okay.
The Illyrians as a species are kind of spread out all throughout the stars. I actually don't know where they're from. We've never seen their home world, but this is very. They mentioned in this episode this is an Illyrian colony that Una lived on, and so they were admitted membership. And you can, as a colony, you can ask for membership within the Federation. It grants you certain protections, and that's what happened in Una's lifetime. That's what happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to focus on this too much because it's not really about the episode, but like, it's one of those things where I hope at some point there is something explored deeper about why would, at a certain point, you've got enough people who are Illyrians, and you know that this is part of them.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I think of the Vulcans specifically? Why wouldn't the Vulcans specifically like be bringing to the table of the Federation that there needs to be an open discussion about the law in terms of augmentation?
This is kind of where I'm really happy that the two of you are doing the show with me, but this is kind of where I'm sad I can't like riff on a fun little bit about how Vulcans came to Earth and was just like, oh yeah, eugenics wars, that sounds like it sucked. Whatever. Yeah, let's ban all of that shit. Because Vulcans were part of the founding members of the Federation. They made first contact with Earth. They guided Earth into the 22nd century. And like, just to think of it, it's just so funny that Vulcans were just like, oh yeah, no, yeah, we're with you guys.
I think particularly that this guy's just an asshole.
Oh, I wonder. Oh, go ahead, Sparkz. If you have.
Well, he's. I think he's a strong like your average Vulcan, because we know Spock is not average Vulcan. Like, he's a strong like your prototypical average Vulcan. Like, the rules are the rules.
The rules
like as much as it is nice to hear an individual's personal story, we are only here to follow the law.
This isn't about emotion, it's about facts.
Right.
Yes.
And I think
that dude was still crafty though.
Well, and I think that even holds up to when she brings out the asylum stuff, that even he's like, that's the law.
That's true.
Like, I don't, it doesn't even look like he's upset about it or anything, which would make sense. He's a Vulcan, but like, it doesn't look like this bothers him at all. He's like, yes, absolutely, that is the law.
Yeah.
And that's,
he's a by the books kind of guy,
right? And that's all he cares about. But it just feels like with as much as I'm aware of about like how Vulcans have their customs and their ways of integrating into the larger part of being part of Starfleet or being part of the Federation and recognizing differences between them, it's jarring that there wouldn't be a grander discussion in terms of the Federation. And I'm sure that's part of the point, like part of the point of this episode, and certainly part of the point of what Nira wants this to be, is you now have Starfleet as an example. Yeah. There's a decorated officer inside of, and respected officer inside of Starfleet, who is a shining example that the laws about augmentation cannot be applied to all in a general sense. Yeah.
So I want to spin something real quickly up just to kind of stay on the augment thing, because this is something I don't mean to stay too much on it. This is something that's always fascinated me within Star Trek. So this episode kind of like scratches an itch for me. There's a 3-part episode that in Star Trek Enterprise called Boundless. I think it's the first episode, but it's this 3-part episode where it's revealed that Data's ancestor has actually created augmented humans, and he's in prison for it. And these humans have escaped where they're being held, and they go on a rampage throughout the galaxy, throughout the quadrant. They steal a Klingon shuttle. It's because of them, Klingons don't have fridges anymore. That's the whole thing. And it's a whole like galactic almost disaster that happens. And I wonder if the implication of having that 3-part episode was Star Trek Enterprise's desire to make the law make more sense within the context of a galactic scale rather than just a planetary one.
Perhaps. But Starfleet only thinks about the eugenics war.
That's true. Starfleet really only thinks about the eugenics wars.
As an entity, they are focused singularly on that point as an example. Now, I really like the way that they handle like the people who are judging Una here and everything. I think they do a good job of keeping them like emotional but level, where they're caring and empathetic, but they are also recognizing like why these laws exist and being attached to that history.
I think April just got a little butthurt, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think so.
He's just a little robo-racist.
He's just a little racist.
Yeah, I just say sometimes you don't realize it until you're confronted by it, you know?
I mean,
especially, I will admit, like, that was a scene I didn't like for April, is when he goes to Pike and he's like, yeah, it's a damn shame they didn't hear any of those things. And I'm like, nobody stopped you from saying those things.
Right.
You stopped you from saying those things.
Yeah, I was like
you're putting that on Pike for getting this lawyer.
And like, April, you're dramatic.
And you're like, man, it's a shame that I couldn't have said those nice things about Una that also in the back of his mind knows wouldn't have changed the case.
That's true.
Yeah.
And she knows that wouldn't have changed the case, which is why it wasn't the important thing to ask him about.
He just wanted to be a little spitty.
And like even later, like she commends that like April is a captain who makes those judgmental decisions that are more about handling the situation in front of you, not just what the book says, because the book is not. And I think this is where Star Trek Strange New Worlds is really cool, is because what it's doing that I'm certain not all of Star Trek does, is question the fact that like people get so comfortable in the idea that we are a utopia beyond what the past was. Earth was just, oh God. But look at what we've created. We are so much more refined. We explore without pillaging. We are only militaristic when it's absolutely called for in war. We are not colonizers. We're adventurers. Without actually like taking the magnifying glass to that and being like, yeah, but are you perfect? Do you think you're perfect?
So that's actually something that I also love about Strange New Worlds, because they've adopted it from, they've inherited it from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine couldn't really dive into a lot of those things. Most past Star Trek couldn't really like in a kind of like meaningful way dive into them because of who was running Star Trek at the time, Brandon Braga. You could touch on it, but you couldn't really dive into it, and that's what I really like about Strange New Worlds and Discovery also a little bit. But like we're really like digging into it.
Well, and I don't mean to put down like old Star Trek shows, because part of the point of that, for like, let's say the entire run, you know, original up through Deep Space Nine and Voyager, that's all meant to paint a future that we'd all want. It's supposed to be progressive and an ideal to want and to strive for. So you want it to be this kind of like, yeah, we've kind of worked out a lot of our worst stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're pretty good about it these days. But now we're far enough along in Star Trek where engaging with it as a pop cultural text, we can also be like, yeah, you can be like a lot better and have solved a lot of the problems we're facing today, and you'll still have problems. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to acknowledge and try and work on them, because like progress isn't something that you ever like get to the end of.
That's so beautifully put, because that's what so a lot of people talk about the fact that like when you're talking about Star Trek, it's all about a hopeful, optimistic future. And I've always felt that I don't think that's the case. I think Star Trek has always been about building a better future, constantly striving to be better. Picard says in the first episode of Next Generations, we're not perfect, but we're getting there. We're working on it. We're constantly working on bettering ourselves. And I which is why I like all this new Star Trek shows probably more than some of the haters, because like they're really like digging into what does that mean? What does it mean to constantly be? It means confronting our prejudices, confronting these things that we've been so comfortable with. It means working on it. It's work to get better, and I like that.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I love a character I really like, La'an. Yes. You know, from she's the descendant of Khan and stuff, how that ties into this episode of like you're descended from a superhuman man. Like, how do you think? Like, this is a similar situation, baby.
I was surprised that they didn't ask her. She was augmented on the stand.
I was too. Yeah,
me too. I was surprised about it, honestly, because I didn't really think about if she would be. I mean, Captain Patel, to her credit, does not ask, hey, by the way, you're descended from the greatest mass murdering dictator of the 20th century. Does that affect you in any way?
Also the sexiest. And
I like her. I like that it's revealed in this episode in such a nice sort of way. Like, yeah, her augmentations, the augmentations that Khan were a part of, are still in her bloodstream. They're probably not as dramatic as they were 200 years ago, but they are still there. She is somewhat augmented.
Yeah.
Which has to her name. Can you imagine? No one changed her name in 200 years. The Noonien Singh name. It's like someone being named Hitler. You're not changing it.
Like, I'm taking it back. Like, maybe don't take that one back.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild that and so her name is like a calling card. Like, oh, this person, and like the fact that she is in Starfleet and nobody holds her ancestor against her is really great, because it proves that people don't look at you how your ancestors were and knows that you're a different person. But also, it should be a calling card that part of her might be augmented.
Yeah,
and it's never really addressed. And I like that they do reveal that she is. There
might be a scene where like something gets like put onto somebody, and she has to use that strength, and it's like, oh, look what I can do under super stress. I'm like, oh, look at you! Don't be bad.
I really like La'an. I'm glad she's.
I think this is a strong episode for everybody, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I think about what we talked about last week with Rebecca Romaine. Mm-hmm. And I think she's incredible in this episode.
Yeah, she's really good. Yes. She's really bringing it. Like, I was specifically looking like, I want to see you emote, Rebecca. Can you do it? And like, she really was. Like, she really did bring it. Like, I got to respect her. Like, she did really. I'm going to be honest. When I figured out the whole episode was going to be around her, I got a little worried. But like at the second, I was like, oh no, she's got it. We got it. We're good. Yeah. Like, I think the end's great. Like, I think she's really good this one.
There's something so interestingly. And there's something so interesting about her arc in this episode, in that it's kind of a 1-to-1 of her arc as Mystique in X-Men 2.
Yeah. I shouldn't have to hide who I am.
What I thought is, I'm like, oh, look at you, Rebecca Romaine. You finally got the Jennifer Lawrence story for yourself.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I found that funny. And they even bring it up in the Ready Room episode that is about this episode. They talk about her arc as Mystique being in X-Men 2 being that. And I was like, that's, at least they know.
Yeah. Which is like, that's there, but like they never explored that the way they did with like Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's really cool that she got to have that. I think it was very smart of the writers to have the lawyer be a personal friend with a history with her. I think it made everything in the episode work better, having her be Illyrian, and what that meant, and like being a different kind of Illyrian, because Nira doesn't have augments. At least it seems that way.
At least none that we saw, or I don't think she ever said it.
Yeah,
because she does say us. Some of us can't hide.
Yeah,
which is pretty pointed at that to imply that she is augmented in some way.
But like she can, right? Like there's nothing. I wonder if that's a royal us, because she's defended clients who like she's taking on the plight of all the Illyrians who are suffering, and sees her as abandoning. But I don't think she's in that category. She just believes in fighting for them.
I think she can pass for it, but I think she is collectively speaking for
because we know that her family went to the Illyrian city when Una's family went to the non-Illyrian city.
Right. Yeah.
And she can live on the planet, which should imply that there is some level of augmentation happening with her.
I wondered if that was going to come up, like that part of it was about where Illyrians lived and that they had to be augmented to live where they live. And if that would be part of like contesting this kind of stuff, but I guess not, which is fine.
Seems to be a choice.
Yeah, but I wonder where does the line get? This is what they were saying, like even in the text of the episode, like the lines have to be drawn in different places than where they are.
Draw the line here.
Because I almost said the same thing.
I know that quote. I've never seen that movie, but I know that quote.
Because even in the episode, like they said, lines have to be drawn in the sand, but sometimes they need to be erased and reevaluated.
Right.
I like that the crux of the episode is, look, we're not going to solve the augmentation problem today.
No,
but we can focus on this one case.
Yeah, like it's a step in the right direction. I really like that, and like when Nira, I think her name is like the lawyer Nira, when she's like starts to turn it for like kind of like all of the Illyrians instead of like just focusing on her. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Hey, like this could be a win or a lose for you, but this can still be a shift in direction for like Illyrian freedom.
Right.
Like this can be it won't be the win, but it will be a step, and that is just as important as a win.
Right, because
Go ahead.
sorry, just real quick off that, like what is so important and what I think gets Nira on board as with the idea initially, but what gets Una to want to fight for this is that it's not just like, oh, you could leave Starfleet and not go to prison, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
They will make it so that an Illyrian being there never happened in the history records. Like no one will ever acknowledge that an Illyrian climbed the ranks of Starfleet. And that's the thing that she's like, we can't let them wipe that away. This has to be a standing example of why this law is wrong.
100%.
I really like Nero's kind of arc in the beginning here, because she takes this case knowing she's going to lose. She sees this as a soapbox case. Like, I can make this case. I can reveal how Starfleet has flimsy laws. But as Marc said, it's that kind of turn that she has to be like, oh no, I'm not here for all of Illyrians. I'm here for Una, and that's what I need to focus on. And by doing so, I will help all of Illyrians.
Well, and like, I think what they do very smartly, and like, it did annoy me just a little bit at one point how much Nero was on the, like, I don't really care about Una kind of thing, just because like, she left me. That got like one scene too far for me. Mm-hmm. And then it hits the turn where when she's talking to La'an and she realizes, well, who turned her in? Una turned her in. And that changes her perspective of Una. And it's like, I wish it didn't take that for you to stop being such a brat about it. But like, that's fine. Because what she recognizes is that she came there thinking Una just selfishly wanted to not be removed from Starfleet. Mm-hmm. But somebody had outed her. Mm-hmm. But when she realizes Una outed herself, that means Una wants to stand up for who she is inside of Starfleet. And that's an entirely different conversation with Nira.
And that inspires Nira at a different level. Yeah.
Right.
I really like the testimonials between M'Benga, La'an, and Spock.
Very good.
I think they're incredibly cut together. They're so wonderful. There's a Spock has the fake out moment of, oh yeah, she was hiding something.
Yeah.
And I love that, because that's a reference to Star Trek Short Trek's First Day, which is that episode where it's a really cute episode. It's like 5 minutes long. It's Spock and Una trapped in a turbo lift, and Una sing a Gilbert and Sullivan song together, and that's just a really cute kind of character building moment. That if you have that again, one of those things, like, you don't need that moment to appreciate what happened in this episode, but it does kind of heighten that sense of like, oh yeah, that was a really sweet moment of bonding between the two of them.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to mention it before it gets lost to me, because there's a lot in this episode. I really, really like the scene that spotlights Uhura saying no. Yeah. Like, no, I won't let you do this to you, because you're my friend. And this is like breaking real hardcore no Starfleet laws. So I'm not going to do this for you. And that felt very like really wanting to retain, to my knowledge, who Uhura, grows to be on Star Trek, and like wanting to set the foundation of like, that's not something she'd do.
Yeah. No,
like where she draws her lines, this is not something she'd do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little hypocritical the week after she stole the Enterprise, but it's still.
But she just was complicit.
She just looked away.
She just looked the other way. Yeah.
But it's still a good character moment, because La'an is like taking it personal, right? Like she's like,
we're friends, and she's like, yeah, we're friends. That's why I'm saying no.
Yeah, we're not doing this because this is going to be bad for you. She's not protecting. I really like that moment, because it's Uhura's not protecting herself. She's protecting La'an.
Yes.
And that's a good character moment for her.
Yeah.
So the Vulcan we talked a little bit about in the beginning is Pasalk.
Yes.
He is I love his smirk. He's so evil. He's played so villainously. I love it. The conversation that he's having with Spock in the mess hall.
I apologize that you had to see that
body language
outburst.
Yeah,
that's such a great gag. When M'Benga is just like, wait, don't you see that they hate each other.
Yeah.
and Ortegas is like, wait, are you messing with me right now? Because like, what are we doing?
I wonder if anything, because you brought it up last week, like talking about any involvement of Spock's father. I feel like anything even tangentially related to Spock's dad that we are going to get now is kind of going to come via Pasalk. I think that's one of the reasons that they probably have him now.
I really hope so. So because it's Patel. Is it T or B? Patel. She says that now my boss is looking into this, and I don't know why, because he wasn't supposed to be part of this case, and then he was when she declined the plea deal. I think Pasalk has it in for Pike.
Sure.
And that's why he took an interest in this case, because he wanted to go after Pike.
Yeah, because that's his whole directive at the end. Like, this is all the captain's fault. It was his charge. And stuff.
He tries to turn it to conspiracy.
So I wonder if it's going to come back around and we're going to see him play a more antagonistic. There's a trope in Star Trek called the Badmiral, which is an admiral that's mostly evil. I wonder if we're going to see this character come back around and be this kind of Badmiral character for Captain Pike.
Wouldn't shock me at all.
Neither would I.
Wouldn't spock me at all.
Since you brought up Battelle, I need to shout out Melanie Scrofano, one of my big TV crushes. I'm so glad she got more to do in this episode. Winona Earp herself.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah, she's great.
Love her.
She's great in this episode. I really liked her conversation with Pike, and I really like how much she hopes that Una gets off.
Yeah, she's just, again, like, she's a great person. She's just like, she's so into Starfleet. She's like, rules though.
Yeah.
But rules. I love you, but rules.
I mean, it's kind of the thing where, like, it's really nice to have a captain and a captain have this conversation because they're both on the equal footing. And Pike can just be like, look, what if the rule is wrong? It's like, I am a lawyer. I have to follow the letter of the law. This is something that I have to do. Right. Why don't you understand this?
Yeah. And I really like her scene with Pike in the mess hall, where she gives the example of, like, you are on the stand under oath, and makes it clear, like, not only would Pike be putting himself in danger, he could put the whole ship in danger. The whole crew would be run down for being part of this.
Yeah. And
that really hurts Pike because Pike is, like, he gets it, but, like, you remember when it's first outed that Una is Illyrian, and he says, I welcome that fight because he has nothing to lose.
Right.
He knows what's going to happen to him. So
he loves speeches. He always wins with speeches.
Right. He loves speeches. He knows exactly when he's going to die. So, like, he doesn't care. Sure. So he's kind of sitting there like, yeah. So what? If they come for you, they'll come for me, and they can't do anything to me. And then, but Battelle is like, you cannot win this. You have to take a back seat to this one. I'm doing you a favor.
Right. And I think so importantly because Pike will just lay himself down on the line for any of his crew. That's fine. But she gets him to recognize you will be laying down the entire crew on the line for Una in your name. Yeah. Which is not the same thing and not what Pike wants to do.
Is there a little bit of a... between them, a little bit of...
We saw them have sex in the first episode.
Yeah, the first episode, she's the one in his home.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah. In the very first episode when he's on Earth, they're together.
Got it. Okay. They're very professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I forgot that they even actually boned already. Like, that's very professional. Like, I
don't think they're actually a couple. I think they're just booty calls.
No, yeah.
I think they're very good friends who have slept together.
Friends with benefits, captains with benefits.
Yeah, I don't think they're locked into a relationship, but I think they could be if they wanted.
They're married to their jobs, but they're banging each other.
Yes,
because because she's also in the last episode of season 1 of Quality of Mercy. In the beginning, when he's making pasta for her.
Yeah.
Really I forgot. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, for some reason I thought she just like came over, but like no, that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I really like her, and I'm glad that she's getting more to do in this episode, in this season specifically. I think she's in the next one. No, she's not. Judging by the trailers and where we're going in the next one, I might be supplanting 2 different episodes together. But
I'm sure we see her again though, and she's just. I love her.
She's really good.
So good.
Yeah, she's got good energy.
I'm really happy for her that she's playing a captain, but I'm also sad because I'm like, you can't be part of the ship. You can't be a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be pretty good as a regular. I don't actually think she has a ship though, so she could just hop on.
That's true because they've only called her captain, but we haven't heard of her taking her ship out.
Yeah, she might just be. She might just not have a ship.
She's a dock captain.
That happens a lot for in Starfleet. There are captains who just don't have ships.
Sure.
There's chill captain.
I think we talked about April's testimony. I think Nira is absolutely correct in what she was trying to do, and I'm glad that it's kind of vindicated at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
where she's talking about how, the prime directive at this point, called General Order 1, is so sacred, and yet so many captains across the history of Star Trek have just disobeyed it because it would be better for the people if they didn't. And so if that's flimsy, then why is this so flimsy? And I think Nira made a good call there, honestly.
No, I think they do a really good job. The writers do a very good job of writing Nira to be this character who interrogates Starfleet at its most fundamental core of saying, like, your laws are not perfect.
And
if we can acknowledge that the prime directive can be up to a captain's discretion of maybe not in this scenario, how come this can't be? And I think that's a really good point. And I really do like that she brings it back around on April, who, again, like, nobody stopped you, sir. But when she brings it back around again at the very end, and she references back to April's interactions in those cases and says, like, she makes it clear her point was not to slander April, but to hold him up as an example of a captain doing a good job in spite of the law.
What needs to be done. Exactly. Yeah. Despite of the law. Yeah. And I just love that. Like, she was like, yo, you did this thing on this planet, this thing on this planet, this thing on this planet. I'm like, damn, he sounds pretty cool, actually.
April's a cool captain. I'm actually really glad we get more of him, because he was introduced in the animated series as a white guy, unfortunately.
Well, he's awesome here.
Yeah, I really like this character, and he is. And now they have canonically cemented it. He was the first captain of the Enterprise from 2245 to 2250, and he. And so Patel, Una, and Pike all served under him, we find out in this episode. So I would really love to see a flashback episode with them on the bridge with Captain Robert April. I think that'd be really cool.
That's sure gotta happen one day. For sure. That sounds awesome.
I mean, I know that Pike is gray, but you know what? Make it work.
They got black.
He could dye his hair.
Yeah, just dye his hair for a day.
His hair wasn't, his hair looked great in oh no, we didn't see it, did we? Never mind. I was gonna say in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh no, yeah.
And I was like, no, he has the cowl on the whole time.
Yeah, he's wearing that plastic.
He had a dark hair in Discovery, so he went gray between Discovery and season 1 of Strange New Worlds.
Oh wow, he went real gray.
Space will do it.
Yeah. I think he was dyeing his hair, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
It's like that like 6 months between when the last Jackass movie took a break because of COVID, and Johnny Knoxville had black hair, and then COVID happened, and then he had white hair like midway to the movie. And I'm like, what happened, Johnny? Like,
you know what it is? Pike saw how he was going to die, and it turned him gray.
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
Shocked him white. Sure,
yeah,
I'll believe
that's
it.
What happened. So Una's whole testimony in the episode, it pretty much takes over the back half of the whole court case. I think is a really good character building moment for her, and probably something that she needed this whole time.
Yeah.
We learn a lot about who she is, about her upbringing, it is certainly an exposition dump of character, but I think it's effective because it is a testimony. You're allowed to do something like that. You're allowed to do kind of these storytelling ideas, and I think it's effectively done to kind of give us a better clue into who her character is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's really good in this episode, and I do agree. I wish we didn't have to wait until the second season to get like a dedicated episode to really dive into her. Not that the other, the other episodes, like the other characters get full episodes or anything like that, but like she was the one character for me that I needed more of. So like I'm glad it's here because I think it's really good. I hope this isn't a situation where like this episode is the really heavy one, and then we're just gonna wipe it all away, and then the next episode we're just back to regular Star Trek, and that's fine if it is. But like if there's like no ramifications for any of this in the future at all, I'm gonna be kind of bummed because like this felt kind of like a serious thing, not just for like an episode, but for like the universe of Star Trek dealing with like racism and stuff, so like I hope there's something with her character and her being involved in this that doesn't just go away, you know what I mean?
Or just augmentation in general.
Yeah,
even if it's as long as the conversation is taking the next chapter step from this
just something. I don't want this like to be like, oh, we're talking about a real heavy subject and like something important, and then just back to normal Star Trek forever.
The augmentation thing is really tough because of this show's position as a prequel. Because it has so much in front of it, it can't really do much more with augmentation than what they did here. But as far as Una's character goes, what I really like about Strange New Worlds that we saw in the first season is that, yes, it is back to episodic Star Trek, and episodic Star Trek means that, you know, we put all the toys back in the box at the end of the episode and take them out in the first episode, and they're all, and it's like the last episode never happened. What I really like about Strange New World season 1 is that, while yes, that is kind of the feeling, there are character arcs that keep kind of going in the background. It is episodic, but it has serialized elements and moments and character arcs, and I feel pretty confident that this isn't going to be the last time we see anything with this and Una kind of play a part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so, because I think it's important for the character, and, you know, I don't want it to just be, all right, she had her episode, back to having 3 lines an episode. Like, I don't want that, you know, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. But there are other characters who need episodes.
It's true.
Not every episode, but you know, like if the next episode is not Una heavy, like we didn't see much of Chapel in this episode. Absolutely. That's fine. Like, you know, it can circulate around.
I don't want this to be the Una show. That's not what I'm asking.
I know what your point is.
Yeah. Speaking of Chapel, while they're talking about how augmentation is playing God and against all these things, Chapel and Mbenga give themselves a look, and I'm like, yeah, we know.
Right. Which is, so I don't think we're done talking about augmentation right now.
Because you're right. Because because Chapel and Mbenga, this injection is a type of augmentation that's got to come up again.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's, you know, we started, the first episode was them doing that. The next episode is this conversation around augmentation. I don't think this is, and you have La'an on the ship.
Fiends.
I don't think that the idea of continuing to talk about augmentation and its different, like, pros, cons, and how it fits into the galaxy and the timeline of Star Trek is over. Because there's too much on the table.
Yeah.
It's you guys won't get this reference, but in the original series, it's very funny that that Spock and Uhura don't immediately recognize Khan's name because they served with his ancestor just 5 years prior.
That's just one of those things where you're like, oh, well, oopsies.
Yeah. I mean, it's a prequel. It's a prequel that came out decades later. Like, there's no way that they can make something like that happen. But it's
the amount I am lovingly, utterly confused. Very good. Because everybody is saying she's a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh.
Yeah.
And then there's a Khan later who's different.
Okay, you've heard of the movie The Wrath of Khan?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right. So Khan's not dead. He and his people were shot off into space. And 200 years after that happened, so he got shot off into space in the 90s, 96 to be specific.
Okay,
ends up in the future.
Okay, I got confused because Brandon said that Spock and Uhura served with his ancestor, and I'm like, she's his descendant, right?
Descendant. I said ancestor. You're right.
Okay, yeah. You threw me because I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I just knew what you were talking about, so I just put the right word in my brain. So like, no, we're all together now.
My slim amount of understanding suddenly went scribble. I was like,
we just heard this.
I'm
Fast and the Furious.
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant to say descendants, not
okay.
Not
got it. Yes, cool.
That is fun. Khan's great. Star Trek Into Darkness. That's what's going on here. What are we doing?
No,
here?
but the Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, is an incredible movie.
Love it. Good one. Good stuff. I believe we reviewed it like 7 years ago.
We did. The dress uniforms in this episode are delicious. I love them so much.
Always.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
Yep.
They're a great upgrade from what they are in the original series. They look pretty much exactly the same, except instead of it's patches. The diamond shaped format is a patch in the original series, but in here it's a badge.
I like it.
I really like the designs. They recreate the chair with the stupid little light that I think glows red when you lie.
Is that what was?
I wondered if that's like.
Because it never happened.
Is it like a quick lie detector? It's just that good.
I think it is. I think it's. I don't remember the episode. I think it first shows up in the episode The Court Martial. But I don't remember exactly if we learn what it does. Pasalk has this moment where he's like, "I will remind you you're under oath and you don't want to perjure yourself," and it's like it cuts to that. I'm like, is it going to kill her?
Yeah.
Right. It's only weird because like in the context of just this episode, you never see it change.
That's the thing.
So like, but like nobody lied. And so like, that's not a bad thing. It wouldn't have made sense for anyone in the context of the show to have lied unless you just had like someone at the start who's like, this is usually what has to happen with like,
this is what happens when you
like
lie.
someone has to test it, make sure it's working, right? Like they have to tell an obvious lie. And it's like, that's what it looks like when it lies. But like,
there could have been a funny joke there. There could have been a funny joke with like Spock or something.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, they could have done like a
pretty girl. Like red.
Yeah.
You're right. They could have done a test. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it's used, but I do remember it specifically.
I hope it just yells lies. Lies.
There's a lot of really cool updates of technology from the 60s that I really like in this show, just in general. And one of the things that we see in this season, specifically this episode, is the stupid little yellow data disk that was just a piece of plastic that they cut into a square, and now it has all this sort of bunches like data on it. And I love that. I love it so much.
Yeah. I want to shout out the girl who plays the receptionist in Era. When Pike is sitting there like, I can wait, and he waits until his oxygen is screaming, and then she's like, oh my God, fine.
He's so stubborn. I will die for an interview. I don't care.
Because he looks at it, it starts beeping, and it's just like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I'm good.
1%? Not at 0%.
Yeah. And she's just like high heeling up the steps like, okay.
I really like her. I want to say that this is a big season so far for reusing of Discovery sets. The courtroom is the USS Federation in Star Trek. Discovery it has actually been used in every season of the USS Discovery, twice as the same thing, twice as different things. It's in the 32nd century, it is Federation HQ. And so I just think that's really funny that we've now done a second episode in a row that has reused the set from Discovery.
Hey man, these shows, they can look so expensive because we keep using the same sets. That's why.
That's fine.
Hey man, you got to use it. That show's canceled. They're not using it anymore.
Doesn't bother me.
Yep, might as well. It apparently has been distracting to some people online. It's not to me. I always like I find reused sets really fun, and something like this. But it's just really funny.
Isn't that just arguably tradition on Star Trek?
It is just tradition on Star Trek. And one of the things, but I think it's really funny that like it's so specifically that set, and they like put like the wood paneling on it, but like they don't fill in the giant circle in the middle to disguise it a bit. I just think it's fun.
It is an interesting. It is like when you tell me that, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get it now. I see it. Yeah.
In season 4, just imagine a big holographic map of the Earth in the middle there, and that's Discovery.
I'm seeing it in my mind's eye right now.
I love it. I think that because Star Trek has built so many sets for these live action shows, you should definitely reuse them.
Yeah, man, this show's like hell. It looks good. Like the CGI is good. Like there's a lot of like big sets. So like, yeah, if you gotta reuse it, like I don't think the average person's gonna notice.
No, especially like recognizing that more people are watching Strange New Worlds than Discovery. They just are. Yeah, like more people have been drawn in by the show. They might go to Discovery at some point, but like for now, who cares?
Just go.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds doesn't have. I don't necessarily think it's more. I think it's different. I just think that there's. I don't think the Venn diagram of people who watch Strange New Worlds and Discovery is as comprehensive as people might think. Strange New Worlds does take in a lot of viewers, and it is a more accessible Star Trek show, obviously, because Sparkz is watching it and he is really enjoying it, and he's able to follow the series just fine. He's proof positive that this show can appeal to really anybody, even if you've never seen Star Trek before.
True.
But I know that Discovery is really popular, or at least it was. I don't know what the numbers currently are. Obviously, it got canceled, so maybe it's not that good.
Sure.
But I do think it's interesting.
Question: does it still have a season to come out, or is it just like done now?
It does have a season to come out, season 5.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think they were currently doing reshoots to finish it, and they might be done by now. But yeah, next year.
Good to know.
We're losing 3 Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
We just lost Picard, Prodigy, now Discovery. Man, it's rough out there, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you had like what at one point there 5 on at once.
That's true.
Bring it back.
That's a little insane.
I'm selfish.
I mean, like good for them. And I'm glad that most of it has been quality, most of it. But like, I think the more impressive thing is that like one Star Trek show didn't come out on Paramount Plus and then the end.
And it got canceled. Yeah.
Like they found their niche, and I think they'll be able to ride Star Trek to some extent for a while.
Yeah. They put their faith into it and their money behind it. So like it paid off.
I'm trying to look through my notes now. Oh, when Una comes back on the bridge, not the bridge, the transporter room. It's very sweet, very, very lovely. Everyone's clapping, and we all have her. Congratulations. I really like that Pike, kind of a loss for words of what to say, is just kind of like, just goes in for a hug and then just like smacks her arm, like, good to have you back.
Good to have you back, number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that moment.
Yeah, it's good to have. It's nice to have her back. This is a really good show. I'm happy. Yeah. I'm happy to be watching it.
Going back to the Battelle, excuse me, and Pike conversation, I thought one of my favorite moments was her asking him, like, do you remember the first time you met Una? And it was in the academy, and she corrected him. And he says, like, whoever their person was said that we always need, was it April?
April.
Yeah. April said that you always need a number one who's going to tell you when you're wrong. And Battelle's like, yeah, I remember that. And like that's part of their history. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that cold open?
Oh, it's weird.
Remind me again.
It's her when she's a kid with the leg.
Like,
I genuinely wonder if it should have only been when she's telling the story, because it's so much later in the episode.
It is, yeah.
That genuinely, like, so much had happened. I went, oh yeah, the episode started that way. I assumed it was Una when it starts, but I didn't know what was happening. I think that's part of my problem.
No, I was just, yes.
Is that, like, I think it'd be fine if it was there, but I'd like to know the context, because they're not really explaining the situation. They leave that for her to do later in the episode, and I think that's maybe just a little bit of a mistake for that scene to be that early.
Yeah, I think it might be just the execution of the scene. But I don't even know if I necessarily really needed it at the beginning, because I think her telling the story and then maybe just getting a flashback of it just to see how like traumatizing it was for her might have been enough. I don't know. I just think it was also just like shot kind of weird. If
you're gonna do the scene, and I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with doing the scene. I think structurally it's in a weird place as the cold open. If you're going to do a flashback in the cold open, you kind of, I feel, this is just a me thing, I feel you have to have flashbacks interspersed throughout the episode, and I didn't necessarily need that. So I kind of feel like if you did that as the cold open, I kind of feel like removing that from the cold open and putting it into the speech. So like when she's talking about having broken her leg, then then we see it as she's with her voiceover over it. I think that would have been really effective and probably the place it needed to be.
I think just because it's so unfamiliar, they just need to honestly spell it out in that scene. If it was going to be the opening, I don't think that's a problem to have it there. I think you could have then left it there and let her just tell the story later, and you wouldn't have even had to flash back to it if we understood the full context of what was happening in the moment. Because like I hear them saying like we can't go to a doctor and that kind of thing, but I'm like, to me, when I was first watching it, I was like, is this how she got her augments? Like I didn't understand what was happening. Because it wasn't clear. If they'd said like she broke her leg and we can't take her to a doctor because of her augments, I'd be like, cool, got it.
It could have even been
rough.
Like, it could have even been like in the moment it happens, like explosion, Una, we gotta go to the hospital. We can't, we can't because of the augments, or something, just like to give us a little more context quickly and rapidly instead of like kind of laying out a scene for a couple of minutes and just like trying to pick up on context that I don't think is really there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just in a weird place. There's just something about the scene specifically that doesn't quite work. And that's truthfully the worst thing I can say about this whole episode.
No, absolutely. Like it's minor. It's not in the episode a lot, and there's a lot, like literally everything else in the episode.
I forgot about it.
Very good. But I do remember the episode first started, once we got into like the scene after that, I'm like, I don't know what that was. And then I remember when we got to her story later, and it cuts back, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. And I just don't think that they landed that in well, which is a rare miss for them. But like that cold open didn't work for me.
I agree.
Yeah. I really like how this episode tackles. This is kind of the last thing I want to say. I really like how this episode tackles bigotry. I think it does it with a really blunt hand, and I think it's necessary, necessarily so. I love all the one-to-one conversations of, when she's talking to La'an, it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. That's how they want you to feel. They want you to feel like there is something wrong with you. There's not. They want us to feel like monsters. Coming out on Pride Month, there's obviously the Una, wanting to hide who she really, not wanting to hide who she really is. She's talking about how people would start fights in the streets. There was a fight in the schoolyard for someone thinking that they were an Illyrian, not even knowing, a rumor.
Yeah. No, I think just to your point, I think Nira does a really good job of laying out the at one point or another in history, there have been laws against people for race, for who they loved, what their skin, what their gender was, all these kinds of things. And again, like, it's a really good direct translation of tackling the text for we think of ourselves as like an evolved past that society, but how can you not see that in this moment you are on the same wrong side of history as they were back then?
Yeah. I really, there's a lot of places that this allegory can fit in today's society, in our society of the past, in today's society. And while that is depressing that it can fit in so many different places, it is really nice that this episode tackles what is just the concept of prejudice in a really specific and a really well done way, so that so many people can see themselves in this episode.
Yeah. Like you said it, Brandon, like, it's blunt. Like, it is, like, Star Trek is not subtle, and that's not a bad thing. Like, this is a show that had like people's with faces that are black and white, and then the other people's faces are white and black, and they had problems. And it's just like they're very clearly trying to do things like without subtlety to like make a point in the show, like, hey guys, look how ridiculous this is. This is stupid. The things that why racism is real, right? So like the fact that like 50, 60-year-old Star Trek 6 years later, we're still dealing with racism in the exact same way, and like we can still have Star Trek being, hey, still stupid. Why are we all together? This is ridiculous. Like, it's really nice. And it's not trying to be subtle about it. It's like, no, remember in the past when all this shit was like, it was like legal? Isn't that crazy? And we're all like going, it is stupid. It's awful. Star Trek's great.
You bring up a really great point, actually, that I didn't think about, which is that Star Trek allegory used to be supplanted onto alien species. Oh, look at how that alien species is acting towards another alien species. That's like how whites act towards black people, right? Yeah. But this is really important, actually, because this is Starfleet. This is dealing with the heroes' bigotry. This is what, Undiscovered Country, Ryan, when we reviewed 7 years ago, which I've never forgotten, is they were always talking about how this movie deals with racism. Yeah, Kirk is a huge racist towards Klingons. Yeah. And that was really important, that Kirk had to really like come to terms with the fact that he is bigoted towards Klingons, very much in the same way. Like here, it's very difficult to put an allegorical nature to Starfleet because it is a utopia, as Marc said in the beginning here, but that's not towards augments. And so you can use augments, and you can to bring light to the fact that Starfleet is still bigoted to something, which allows the allegory to hit a lot closer to home.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not dealing with lizard people; it's dealing with real people.
And this is where I think there's a divide between, again, like where the Deep Space Nine, Voyager, whichever one of those came last, because I don't know. Thank you. Voyager, where Voyager leaves off in that era of Star Trek, right? Like there's everything that came before that, and everything before that is of this perspective where they are painting the picture of like the future you want to strive towards, which means all the hero characters are representing that future you want to strive towards, even though there will be like moments where they can confront their own inner things. It's not confronting the institution.
Yeah.
Because it's saying like, this is the future you want to desire. But in doing so, this is where like the problems with new Trek as it is like right now, all of these things that are happening on Paramount Plus comes in, where you have people who are like getting mad at it because they're claiming it's woke and all that kind of stuff, is because it is being so direct. It is holding up the mirror at Starfleet, thus holding up the mirror at the real audience and the real culture and the real fans, and saying like, no, this thing exists in life. This is not outside and external, this is internal, 100%. And you have to face it. And like now Starfleet has to face it, and the heroes have to face it. And that's a very modern sense of progressivism and chasing that. And that's where a lot of people, I think, rub up against it and say, well, Star Trek wasn't like this. And I'm like, well, technically you're kind of right. Star Trek was doing progressivism in a way where it was saying very rosily, like, we've kind of gotten there and there are problems outside of the institution. But now we're able to admit, no, the problems are inside.
You're absolutely right, because the way they're able to do the allegorical nature of modern Trek, the way they have decided to do it, is they are, because holding up a mirror to Starfleet is holding up a mirror to the audience that's watching it. And whereas that was always the intention for Gene Roddenberry, to hold up a mirror to society, it was never people who like the conservatives who like Star Trek at the time thought, it's not American society. American society is Starfleet, is the Federation. We're perfect. We're utopia.
Correct.
But having current Star Trek point a mirror at Starfleet is pointing it at, as far as they see, is pointing it as at America.
Right.
And yeah, you're absolutely correct with that.
Yeah. And it's just really funny.
It's cool.
Like, I'm not, I definitely don't see like the same Star Trek circles like on Twitter and stuff, but every once in a while it'll pop up where somebody's like retweeting how stupid someone is about Star Trek. And it's like, somebody's like, wow, this Star Trek is so woke. And I'm like, you guys are talking about Star Trek, right? We're talking about the same thing, right? And it's just always funny when people are like, you can misconstrue, a movie or some like song, but like, Star Trek has been what it's been since its inception. And if you don't get that, then you're a silly person. You're right.
This episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Strange New Worlds in general, honestly, in many ways, is a personification of a speech that Captain Sisko gives on Deep Space Nine, where he had gone to Earth, to Starfleet, for help in fighting the Cardassians and the Dominion and helping Bajor and all things that Sparkz doesn't understand.
I was so close to saying, what was Kim doing?
And
he wasn't involved this one.
And he comes back with nothing. Starfleet said, no, we're not going to help you. And Sisko has this long rant. And I was baffled by it at the time watching it, because I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was this clear. And where he's talking to Major Kira, and he says to her, like, they don't know. They don't understand. How could they? They live in a utopia. They look outside their window and it's perfect. How could they know what's going on here? What's going on what's going on in space? What's going on this planet? They don't care because they're millions of light years away. Why should they?
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful speech. And I butchered it, to be perfectly honest. But
I feel you.
I highly recommend people looking up at least the episode. But like, it's really cool to see that kind of speech come into practice in modern Star Trek, especially, and I think especially in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, for sure. On a last note on the episode, that's why Strange New Worlds is so good. The bit where Nira is able to grant La'an the relief that she was not the person was a really good moment too, for La'an specifically, where she's like, the amount of time it would take to subpoena a personal report would be so long, there's no way you are the reason that she got turned in. And the relief that washes over
you
La'an
are not the conspirator.
That was really great.
Yeah. Why do I feel like I just got hit by a shuttle?
Yeah.
Very good moment. It's a La'an episode next week.
Love it.
I'm gonna be noon singing about it all week, baby.
I wonder if we're going to talk about the Gorn.
They're building up to it for sure.
I don't. I saw the clip. I saw a clip for this week's episode. It looks so good. I'm so excited.
Great.
And I will watch it. I will watch it in 55 minutes.
Born and out.
Oh shit. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, well, that's all I got. What about you guys?
No, great courtroom episode. You know, really, like you said, it was meaty. Great performances. Good job, Rebecca Romaine. Loved you in this one.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Can't wait. I'm really, really happy to be talking about a Star Trek show. So good.
Yeah.
This is a really top tier show.
Yeah.
Like, this was a very, very good episode. Like, just, it really is. And especially for being one as, I don't remember all the season 1 episodes as well as you probably would because you so recently watched them all, but like this one being so rooted in around a singular location.
Yeah, no,
like,
definitely.
we're not doing exploration in this one. You know, and I think they did a great job.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the season so far. Really like this episode. It's really good. Can't wait for the rest of the season. Oh, 8 episodes left. It's always too short.
I feel you.
Hey, for this quality, I'll take it.
That's fair. Okay, so we get out of here then?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, this is Fake Nerds Watch, so check out, of course, other Fake Nerds Watch shows. If you like this video and subscribe to this channel, if you like us, there's plenty more of us on this channel, such as our other Fake Nerds Watch series on Secret Invasion. We have talked about the first episode of Secret Invasion. Will we talk about the second one? Stay tuned. Will we? I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it yet. It sounds like no, though.
We're probably waiting.
All right, we'll probably wait.
I'm just being silly.
Well, so stay tuned for more of that whenever that shows up on your feed. But we will continue with Strange New Worlds as often as we can. And of course, you can check out other shows on this channel, such as Basement Arcade. New episode of Basement Arcade, guys, where you guys talked about some video game demos.
Yeah, we talked through some of the Stream Next Fest demos.
Steam Next Fest.
Steam, thank you. I misspoke.
No, it's okay.
And we'll have a part 2 out when this goes up the next day. So tomorrow,
Ooh.
from when you're watching this.
Ooh la la.
There's, of course, plenty of Basement Arcade Pause Mini, which is a video game Let's Play series. I don't think a new episode went out this week, but there are plenty of new episodes.
That's correct.
And you can also check out Fake Nerd Book Club, which Star Trek Fake Nerd Book Club is up right now, where I talked to Travis Alexander from Kaiju Ramen, where we talked about the kind of proto Star Trek Strange New World, Star Trek Discovery Aftermath, which is a comic book, that's a comic book discussion show. So you can check that out, of course, as well as Real Score and Animation Station. All shows you can find on this network and on this channel.
While you're bringing that up, you know Travis can join us on Strange New Worlds when he wants to, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, because he reacted to that like felt like he couldn't.
Well, he's 2 hours ahead, so it's we got to do it a little
hard,
earlier.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could do it a little earlier, yes, of course he's welcome. It's
maybe at least bare minimum we can try and get him for the finale.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun. Travis is a really cool guy. I like talking to him a lot. Of course, you can check out our TeePublic and our Patreon if you'd like to support us financially, or you can find us all those links and everything. Oh shoot, Miscellaneous is our mythology-based podcast. It is up now. New episodes are coming out. The first episode where I talked about the Ark of the Covenant. See, we're going through the Indiana Jones MacGuffins. If you're interested in Indiana Jones, you want to hear more about that, check that out. That's a lot of fun. A new episode of the Sankara Stones coming soon. I gotta send you the description. I'm sorry.
It's out right now.
It's out right now, apparently. Website. Check out our website. Everything's on our website, fakenerdpodcast.com. Fake Nerd Podcast on all the socials. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamaMedia.com, where I'm also the editor. Sparkz, where can people find you?
You can find me desperately seeking asylum at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
And Ryan.
You can find me Noon singing in the rain at DJ Tony Snark 616.
All right, guys, like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time you see us, guys, live long and prosper.